Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Tina Ray. I'm an educational and child psychologist. Today I'm going to focus on positive mental attitude in my 17th session of the Teens and Tweens series, which is aimed at promoting good mental health and overall well-being. So I hope that this will be a useful session for you. So I think at the outset, it's really important to say it's not always easy to be positive. We know this. So please don't beat yourself up about the fact that you have days when you're not feeling okay. That's fine. We can't always maintain a positive mental attitude, but it's really important that we try. And we try to put things in place that makes it easier for us to do this, because we know negative thinking that we have, our NATs, our negative automatic thoughts, can get in the way. But it's also true, I think, that we can train ourselves to be and act in more positive ways. And this will increase ultimately our level of well-being and happiness levels on a daily basis. What we all need is probably to decrease levels of stress and worry. So this is one way that I think we might want to focus on in terms of actually being able to do that. But it's important, this, because we all need to try and be more hopeful. And at this moment in time, as I'm recording this, we're in the middle of this COVID pandemic. It's a difficult time for many of us, and there's lots of stress and anxiety around, both for adults and children and young people. What can help us sometimes is really focusing on what we can control and looking for the good. I'm always looking for the good and looking for the positive and trying to find those and choose those positive moments, those positive emotions on a daily basis. What we want is to have our best possible future and our best possible present, okay? Not to give in to a sense of hopelessness, because there is always hope in our relationships and in our support systems that we have available to us. So what do we need to do? I think we need to focus. If we're thinking positively and we're trying to look for the good all the time, we tend to be able to remain focused on a task. Now, if we can focus on what we're doing, focus on our relationships, keeping them positive, focus on doing our work in the best way that we can, then I think we will be more successful and we'll be able to maintain a more positive attitude. And this will be really, really important for us going forwards. For me, this is a life skill, because when I'm focused on something, I'm not concerned with all the other problems, all the other things that are going on around me. And I think that's important. So focus first. Then there's flexibility. It's really important, if we're trying to be more positive, to focus on the fact that failure is part of learning. And I've talked about this before when I talked about growth mindset and really trying to look for the good in terms of positive psychology approaches. Failure is important to us. We all experience it. What's most important is that we don't think it's bad and that we learn from it. Even though sometimes we feel very down about it, it can hurt us when we get things wrong, when we don't do as well as we wanted to. But what we need to do is stop, think, and reflect. What have we learned here? Let's not give up, even when it's tough. Let's find our real strength here, even when it's tough. Happy connections too. I think it's much easier to maintain a positive mental attitude if we're surrounded by people who are positive too, and people who encourage us to be positive, to learn from our mistakes, because what they do is they fuel our positivity rather than suck it away. And I think that's very, very important. It's not always easy, but please remember this when you're building your relationships with your friends. Self-belief, it sounds really simple, this, but sometimes people become successful and do things well simply because they think, I can do it. They have that mentality, I can do this. And positive thinking tends to breed this kind of confidence, and it really is one of the major building blocks to success. So making a start, what can you do? If you don't have a positive mental attitude and you'd like to change, here are a few things you can do just to think about at the beginning to make the start here. Recognize that change is needed. Recognize that maybe you are being a bit too negative every day and you're focusing on the stress of the situation. Try to believe that change is possible. It's always possible to move forward, to make things better for ourselves and for others. and try to be more in control of your thinking. So we had a session earlier in the series on negative automatic thinking, how to think more positively, to challenge those negative thoughts and look for the evidence, to recognize that these negative thoughts are not always facts. So try to do that so that you're more in control of your thinking. And sometimes we need to let go of the negative feelings and past experiences. Sometimes we just have to let them go. Now, that's not always easy. If you've had a very traumatic time sometimes when you've been a young child, if you've had really, really difficult things to contend with, it's not as simple as just letting go. I need to say that. And if you are one of those young people or a child who's experienced that real level of negativity in your life, then it's different. You will need to go and ask for some additional help, some additional support to process that, to work through it. You will need some specialist support. And that's when you need to go and ask for help from a trusted adult in your school who can make that referral to the right kind of therapist for you. So I just do need to say that it's not quite that easy for all of us. I think we can all stop criticizing ourselves. We can stop putting ourselves down. That's another place that we can start. So the messages that we're hearing in our heads, we need to start using those affirmations more, saying good things to ourselves on a regular basis. Being mindful, we had a session on mindfulness earlier in the series. That can really help us to maintain a positive mental attitude, as can visualizing a positive future for ourselves. What would be my future that I would really want to have? What would be my future that would be hopeful, helpful, positive for me? A key strategy here is about practicing positivity and self-love. Because as I said earlier, what we say to ourselves is really, really important. I think we can think good, and then that can help us to feel good. If I'm telling myself that I'm okay, I'm worth something, I'm valuable, then what am I going to get back? I'm going to get back those good, energizing feelings, okay? And also, if I'm doing good things for others, if I'm doing good for myself, then I'm going to feel better too. There's a lovely little book called The Little Engine That Could by Watty Piper. It's for younger children. And the train, the main character in this little book, thinks, I think I can, throughout its travels in the story. What's the result? It could, because it told itself that it could. And I think sometimes that positive mental attitude is about thinking, I can do this, and training our brains to take control here, okay? It's also how self-love works when we are using affirmations too, because as I said, what we tell ourselves is very powerful. If I want to practice positivity, then I need to hear these really good messages about myself on a daily basis and compassionately say those things to myself. I am enough. I'm a worthwhile human being. I can do this. I might not be able to do it perfectly, but I can do it. I may not be able to do it as well as I want to yet, but I can do it. I'll make it through this situation. I'm a powerful individual. I'm a good person. I ask my students and young people sometimes to write these down on post-it notes, these affirmations, we call them. You can write them in your daily journals, your affirmations diaries. You can write them on post-it notes, postcards, and just make sure that you read them. When you're feeling a wee bit negative, take them out and read them. Read them on a daily basis, so many times during a day, whatever works for you, in order to ensure that you can maintain a positive mental attitude and feel more positive more regularly. So I hope that this has been useful. I hope that maybe you can use a couple of these strategies or tools. Affirmation certainly is something that I practice on a daily basis. I do think, however, that positive mental attitude for some is really difficult. It's hard work. It's hard work for all of us to maintain it, but it's particularly hard work if you've had a particularly traumatic time in your earlier years in particular. So please, 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 if that's the case for you, do go and seek the additional support that you might need. And I think that hopefully will protect you and also ensure that you don't have to feel that you're the one person who's not able to do this. It's very, very important. The bottom line is always this. It's okay not to be brilliant at this stuff and to have bad days, okay? It's okay not to have a positive mental attitude so many times during the week. But it's really not okay to feel like that all the time. And that's when you need to go and access additional support. So thanks very much for listening. And I hope you join me in the next session of this series, which is the penultimate one.